Hello all, I'm Nelson Blake II, a professional storyboard, character design, and comic book artist, and in the next few minutes I'll be going over several concepts that I think about and train with when improving my skills in drawing the human head. While I do think these techniques are effective, this is not about showing you how to draw heads and faces the way I do, but rather to give you some tools and ideas on how to find your own way. I can't cover everything in one video, but we can establish a strong foundation. We'll be talking about the skull, proportions, depth, and how the features relate to the skull, as well as a few other things. Before we start drawing the head, it cannot be emphasized enough that you have to get comfortable with your simple shapes. Drawing eggs, cans, and spheres may seem easy, but they are essential to creating the illusion of depth and life with your drawing. Simplification is the key to learning things that may be foreign or difficult relative to your individual journey, and mastering these simple shapes goes a long way towards making that journey a lot easier and a lot more fun. So let's talk about the skull. Beneath every normal human head, without exception, is a skull. Before we get to the eyes, nose, mouth, and hair, we need a skull to put these things inside and on top of. It's not just about drawing a skull once and being done with it. You have to learn it from practically every angle and be able to push it, pull it, distort it, make it abstract and a little crazy to fit your needs or assignment or style at that moment. Even if you're just drawing animals or aliens or monsters, the skull is the key in those cases as well. I personally break up the skull into two parts, the jaw and everything else. Let's start with everything else. The head, cranium, eye sockets, nose bridge and hole, cheekbones, upper tooth line. These are all things you have to get a feel for and get to feel the depth for as you learn the skull. Like many things we'll discuss, the fastest way to learn is to draw it a lot of times. Just keep drawing skulls at every opportunity. Sketch it before meals, use it as a warm-up, and make sure you really get a sense of where the skull moves as just a shape. Not necessarily defining the object, but just looking at the form of the object and how it works, where the deep parts are, where the surface parts are, and make sure you pay extra special attention to the contours depending on what direction the skull is facing or turned. This might seem like a lot of work or hard work, and it probably is for a lot of people, but this is really about learning a language, and that language you will become fluent in the more you speak it, or in this case, draw it or see it. If you study the skulls enough, you'll have a built-in feel for proportions because everything connects to each other. That said, until you become fluent in the language of skulls, some people might find their proportions getting a little out of hand sometimes. This is where you want to consult your art books for those proportion principles or rules. These aren't true in every scenario, but they're a good baseline for the standard face. But you want to use these proportions as a guide to double-check your drawings, not to build them up structurally. I'll put a few of those here in the video, but I highly encourage that you go buy or download Andrew Loomis's books on the subject because they are quite good, and most artists recommend them, rightfully so. The nose is about the width of the eyes. There's a triangle, an equilateral triangle, that you can draw from the edges of the eyes down to the base of the nose to keep your distances proper. The ears are about as high as the brow and low as the nose in height. The mouth is halfway between the nose and the chin, and the eyes should be approximately across the middle of the head. Now we're going to talk about facial features and how they relate to the skull. Observe how the eyes are actual spheres that go into the cavity of the eye socket. Return to the study of simple shapes and really think about how this is just a golf ball in the cup. The truth of the depth of those simple shapes should be apparent in your completed head. We'll discuss how to properly do things on individual features in another video, like for instance put lids on top of your spherical eye. Hopefully there's a few demonstrations in the drawings here that'll help you for now, but we'll get those into depth with those subjects later on. The nose is a simple trapezoid shape with two holes cut at the bottom. This idea will be important for lighting later. The jaw is like an open soup can cut in half. Think of the Iron Giant cartoon. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. The inside of our mouths reflect this, and this is the secret to not having all kinds of weird flat symbols inside of the teeth of your characters' mouths that a lot of people learn from drawing cartoons. The jaw is the only part of the skull that moves, so when studying this, move your own jaw around and look in the mirror to observe and study its range of motion. To keep this lesson under time, we won't go too deep into facial expressions, which again we'll cover at length in another video, but let's take a look at how we can relate expressions to the skull. Remember when I talked about making the skull abstract and crazy? Playing with the skull can not only give us facial expressions, but give them to us at the same time as depth, form, and the ability to draw them from all angles. The skin and muscles are flexible, but with the exception of the jaw, which as we said moves on its own, the rest of the skull is unmoving and holds down that foundation and that structure. For myself, I no longer draw a rigid skull, but a more flexible, make-believe version of the skull that allows me to nail expression, proportion, and to a degree even likeness with a few quick simple shapes. I'll stretch and pull those eye sockets so that the structure and expression are done at the same time and not at separate stages. Yet I don't sacrifice proportion, likeness, or perspective because this is all based off of these same simple shapes that we've gotten used to and practiced. I hope you all enjoyed this discussion about the skull and how studying it can help give you a nice foundation on which to draw proportionate, expressive, and convincing faces that work in perspective. All of these things are important. This video isn't a study in and of itself, but more of a table of contents as to what to study. As many art books as I myself have looked at, most of my methods have come from finding my own way of doing things after drawing. All of our brains work differently, so oftentimes the shortcuts and languages that we make up for ourselves work better than the ones supposedly made for us by other people, even though that information that they gave us might work as kind of a guideline because their experience can lend us that helping hand as we get started on learning some new information. Hopefully this helped you all, and if it did, please share and like the video. Have fun, and we'll talk again soon. And if you have a request, please let me know in the comment section, and I'll try to do a video on a subject you might be curious about. Until then, I'm Nelson Blake II. Thanks a lot for watching.